You still have all this to finish before evening.
As long as you live in this house, this is your place.
Everything we made you do in this house? How can she inherit father's money?
The day Bernard's father died, his mother looked me in the eye and said, "Now we will see who truly belongs in this family." I was on my knees, scrubbing the kitchen floor, the same floor I had been scrubbing for 10 years. My hands were raw, my back was aching, and the smell of jik bleach was so deep in my skin that even my dream smelled like it. And Mama Cynthia, that is what we called her, Mama Cynthia. She stood over me in her big Ankara wrapper, arms folded across her chest, and she said those words like she had been saving them for years. Maybe she had. My name is Favor Ebi Adeyemi, and this is my story. I came into Bernard's life when I was 22 years old. I was a fresh girl from Wari, the kind of girl who still believed that love was enough, that if you worked hard, if you were loyal, if you prayed every morning and kept your head down, God would reward you. I believed that. I held on to it like a rope over a river. Bernard was different back then. He was warm and laughing, and he used to call me my favor, like I was something he had found and was proud of. We met at a church program in Lagos. He was wearing a cream kaftan, and his smile could stop traffic. My friend Nena nudged me and said, "That one is looking at you." And he was. We dated for 1 year. Then he brought me to his family house in Benin. That was when I first met the house. It was a big compound, old but proud, 6 bedrooms, a parlor with brown leather chairs that cracked when you sat on them, a kitchen that was always dirty no matter how many times you cleaned it, a backyard with a generator shed and a guava tree, and a borehole that groaned every time you fetched water. And it was full of people. Bernard's mother, his 2 younger sisters, Regina and Clara, his uncle Festus, who never walked but always ate, and various cousins who appeared during holidays like they were summoned from the ground. From the first week, I cooked. From the first week, I cleaned. I thought it was temporary. I thought I was just showing them I was a good woman. That is what we are taught, isn't it? Show them you can take care of their son. Show them your hands are not lazy. Show them you deserve to be there. I showed them for 10 years. Bernard and I were not yet married. That is the part that people always find hard to understand. We were together, fully together, sleeping in the same room, eating from the same plate. But there was always a reason the wedding had not happened. First, it was money. Then it was his father's health. Then it was let us settle down small. Then it was something else I cannot even remember now. I kept waiting. I kept cleaning. And then Papa died, Bernard's father, a quiet man named Lawrence, who used to call me daughter when nobody else would. And everything that had been hiding underneath the surface of that family finally crawled out into the light. Let me tell you what 10 years looks like in a house that is not your own. It looks like waking up at 5 in the morning before anyone else is awake. It looks like sweeping a compound in the cold harmattan air while your breath comes out in small clouds. It looks like soaking beans the night before, blending pepper with a manual blender because the electric one broke 2 years ago and nobody replaced it. It looks like washing 12 people's plates and scrubbing the black bottom of pots with a piece of wire sponge until your knuckles bleed. It looks like being invisible. The sisters, Regina and Clara, they did not hide what they thought of me. Regina was the dangerous one. She was light-skinned and sharp-tongued, the kind of woman who smiles while she is cutting you. She used to call me the house girl when she thought I could not hear. She would leave her dirty underwear on the bathroom floor and look at me when she came back and it had been picked up and washed. No thank you, just a look, like it was expected, like I was furniture. Clara was younger and softer, but she followed her sister the way a shadow follows the sun. And Mama Cynthia. God help me when I think of Mama Cynthia. She was not loud about her dislike for me. That would have been easier to fight. She was quiet about it, deliberate. She would forget to call me to the table when the family was eating. She would tell visitors, "This is Bernard's friend. She helps around the house." Not his woman, not his partner, not the mother of his child, just friend, just helps around. Yes, the mother of his child. I was pregnant once. 3 years into living in that house, I got pregnant. I was happy. I thought that was it. That was the moment that would push Bernard to do the right thing, to finally stand up and say, this is my wife, this is my family. Instead, Mama Cynthia sat me down quietly one evening and told me that it was not yet time for a baby, that Bernard was still finding his feet, that I was a sensible girl and sensible girls understood timing. She said it the way you say something that has already been decided. Bernard did not fight for me. He sat there looking at the wall and said nothing. I lost that pregnancy at 11 weeks. Till today, I do not know if it was God's mercy or my body breaking from exhaustion and heartbreak. I cried for 3 days inside the bathroom so no one would see me. Then I came out, tied my wrapper, and went back to the kitchen. Because what else was I supposed to do? Where was I supposed to go? My mother had died when I was 19. My father had remarried, and his new wife made it clear there was no room for me in that house. Nena was my only friend, and she was in Abuja, building her own life. I had no degree, no savings, no plan B. Bernard's house was all I had. So I stayed, and I cleaned, and I prayed. If you are watching this, and you have a daughter, a sister, a friend who is in a place where she is giving everything and receiving nothing, please share this story with her. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because what is coming will shake you.
Papa Lawrence had money. That was the thing nobody talked about openly, but everybody knew. He had land, 4 plots in Benin, 1 in Delta State. He had a building in GRA that he rented out to a pharmaceutical company. He had savings. He was not a loud rich man, but he was the kind of quietly comfortable man who had built something real over 50 years of careful living. When he died, everything changed overnight. The funeral had barely finished. We were still eating the rice and pepper soup from the burial when Uncle Festus started talking about what Lawrence would have wanted. Cousins who had not visited in 4 years arrived with new cars and fresh agbada. The house filled with noise and politics and the particular kind of greed that wears a black mourning dress. And then the lawyer came. His name was Mr. Thompson, a thin, serious man with glasses and a briefcase. He called the family together in the parlor on a Tuesday morning. I was not invited to sit down. I stood at the edge of the doorway pretending to arrange something on the shelf nearby, listening. Mr. Thompson opened his briefcase. He pulled out papers. He said that Papa Lawrence had left a will. Mama Cynthia sat up straight. Regina and Clara exchanged a look. Uncle Festus cracked his knuckles. Bernard sat with his hands on his knees, his face unreadable. Mr. Thompson started reading. The land in Delta State, that went to Bernard as the first son. The rental property in GRA divided between the 2 daughters. The Benin plots held in trust for grandchildren. And then Mr. Thompson paused. He looked up over his glasses. He said there was one more item. Papa Lawrence had opened a separate bank account 12 years ago, a private account that nobody in the family knew about. The balance in that account was 4,800,000 naira. The room went very quiet. And Mr. Thompson said, "This amount is left entirely and without condition to favor Ebi, the woman who has cared for this family and this home for the past 10 years. I stopped breathing. I heard Mama Cynthia make a sound I had never heard from her before, something between a gasp and a scream. Regina shot to her feet. Festus said "Tufia kwa," like he had been slapped. Even Clara's soft face twisted. And Bernard, my Bernard, the man I had given a decade of my life to, Bernard looked at me across the room. And in that moment, I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Shame. That night was the longest night of my life. The family descended on Bernard like a swarm. I could hear them through the walls of the house I had been cleaning for 10 years, the walls that had held all my secrets and swallowed all my tears. I could hear Mama Cynthia's voice rising and falling like a preacher. I could hear Regina's sharp, cutting tones. I could hear Festus banging something. They wanted Bernard to contest the will. He came to the room we shared at 11 o'clock at night. He sat on the edge of the bed. He did not look at me at first. He just sat there, heavy and quiet. Then he said, "Favor, you know my father loved you, but this is not fair to the family." I looked at him. My heart was hammering, but my voice was calm. "What is not fair, Bernard? That money belongs to the family. You are not even..." He stopped. "I am not even what?" I asked. "Say it." He could not say it, because we both knew what it was. I was not even his wife. After 10 years, after one lost pregnancy, after 5 a.m. mornings and bleeding knuckles, and being called Bernard's friend in front of visitors, I was still not even his wife. And in that moment, something in me that had been bending for 10 years finally straightened. "Bernard," I said, and my voice surprised me. It was steady, like a woman I had not met before. "Your father saw me. Even when you could not find the courage to see me, your father saw me." He tried to speak. I raised my hand. "I am not contesting any will. I am not giving up what your father left me, and I am not sleeping in this house tonight." I packed one bag, just one bag, because after 10 years, almost everything I owned was entangled in that house. My cooking pots, my wrappers, my prayers soaked into the walls. But I packed what I needed: my documents, my one good dress, the small Bible my mother left me, and the letter Papa Lawrence had apparently left alongside the will. A letter addressed to me personally that Mr. Thompson had quietly slipped into my hand when the chaos started, and which I had not yet opened. I called Nena. She picked up on the second ring. "Favor, what happened?" I said, "I am coming to Abuja." There was a pause. Then she said, "I will set the spare room." I walked out of that gate at midnight. The guava tree in the backyard was blowing in the wind, and the generator was humming, and the kitchen light was still on because someone had forgotten to turn it off. I did not turn back. I read Papa Lawrence's letter on the bus to Abuja. It was handwritten. His handwriting was old and careful, the letter slightly shaky, the way old men's hands shake when they are writing something important. He wrote, "My daughter, Favor. Because that is what you are to me, even if this family has been too foolish and too proud to say it. I have watched you for 12 years. I know you have only been with Bernard for 10, but I noticed you from the first time he brought you home. I noticed how you moved in this house, not like a guest, not even like a wife, but like someone who had decided to love something even when it did not love her back. I have seen your suffering. I want you to know that a man saw it, even if that man was too old and too sick to stop it. This money is not charity. It is not pity. It is payment. Payment for what this family took from you without asking. Your youth, your time, your tears, your baby. Yes, I know about the baby. I know more than you think. Use this money to build something that is yours, something that no one can take away. And Favor, please, find a man who will stand up for you. My son has many good qualities, but standing up is not one of them. You deserve a man who stands. God bless you, my daughter. Lawrence." By the time I finished reading, the woman sitting next to me on the bus was asleep, and I was crying silently in the dark, the letter pressed against my chest, the bus moving through the black night highway. I was crying, but I was not sad. I was crying because for the first time in 10 years, I felt seen. I felt real. A dying old man had looked at my life and said, "I see you. You are worth something. Here is the proof." And that was the thing that broke me open. Not the cruelty, not the rejection, not the years of pain. It was finally being seen that made me fall apart. Because when you have been invisible for so long, being seen feels almost like too much to hold. I held it anyway. Nena met me at the park in Abuja with a face full of fury and arms full of warmth. She fed me jollof rice and let me sleep for 2 days. She did not ask too many questions. She just sat beside me and let me breathe. That is what a real friend does. The family tried everything. Mama Cynthia called, first gently, then angrily, then with tears, then with a pastor from their church who called me and quoted scriptures about forgiveness and family unity. I listened to the pastor politely, and then I said, "Sir, with all due respect, where was the church when I was losing my pregnancy in that bathroom alone?" He had nothing to say to that. Regina sent messages that I did not read. Festus somehow got my number and called, threatening legal action. Nena's lawyer friend, a sharp woman named Sonia, who wore her locks in a high bun and had a voice like a blade, wrote Festus a letter so precise and so legally terrifying that he never called again. Bernard called 3 times in the first week. I did not pick up. The 4th time, I picked up. He said, "Favor, I am sorry." I said, "I know." He said, "I was a coward." I said, "I know that too." He said, "Can we?" I said, "No, Bernard, we cannot." Not because I hated him. I want to be honest here. I did not hate Bernard. I understood him. He was a man who had been shaped by a mother who taught him that a woman's suffering was the price of her place in the family. He did not invent that cruelty. He inherited it. But understanding why a person hurt you does not mean you have to stay and let them keep doing it. I wished him well. I meant it. With the 4,800,000 naira, I did exactly what Papa Lawrence told me to do. I built something of my own. I took a business course. I rented a small space in Wuse with Nena's help. I opened a catering business. Because what else do you do when you have spent 10 years perfecting jollof rice, egusi soup, and fried fish for an ungrateful family? You take that skill and you charge for it. I called it Favor's Table. The first month was slow. The second month was better. By the 6th month, I had catered 2 weddings and a company dinner. By the end of the first year, I had hired 2 girls and expanded the menu. I was not rich, but I was building with my own hands for myself. And then, because God has a sense of humor that is equal parts painful and beautiful, I met Jason. He was a client, a quiet, broad-shouldered man who had hired me to cater his mother's 70th birthday. He kept coming to the kitchen during the event to tell me the food was wonderful. The 3rd time he came, I laughed and said, "Sir, if you keep coming to my kitchen, I will give you an apron." He said, "I will take it." We talked that night until the event was over and the chairs were being stacked. He asked if he could see me again. I said yes, but slowly. He said he was fine with slowly. He was fine with slowly. That sentence sounds small, but it was the biggest thing any man had ever said to me. Because slowly meant he was not in a rush to own me. Slowly meant he was not collecting me. Slowly meant he respected my pace. It took 1 year, one careful, dignified, beautiful year. And then Jason got down on one knee in a small restaurant in Maitama. Just us, no audience, no performance. And he asked me to marry him. I said yes. We married 6 months later. Nena was my maid of honor. Sonia, the lawyer, sat in the front row and cried louder than anyone. Papa Lawrence's letter was folded in the inside pocket of my wedding dress, pressed against my heart. I heard that Mama Cynthia fell ill not long after everything. I sent her money for her treatment, not because I owed her anything, but because I am favor. And favoring people, even the ones who wronged me, is the one thing I refuse to let them take from me. I heard that Bernard eventually married someone else. I hope she's happy. I hope he learnt. I think sometimes about that girl on her knees scrubbing a kitchen floor at 5 in the morning, the smell of bleach on her hands, telling herself that if she just worked hard enough, if she just loved enough, if she just waited long enough, one day it would be enough. I want to go back and tell her something. I want to tell her it was never about being enough. You were always enough. The problem was never you. The problem was that you were pouring yourself into people who had no intention of ever being full. Stand up, Favor. Stand up and walk away. Your table is being prepared somewhere else, and baby, it has your name on it.